So I drink kombucha and I don't do acid. That's a very positive message to spread. What's up, bruv? I have a desire to film this podcast in a British accent. I'll save you guys that pain, because that won't be pleasant for anyone but me. I was like not posting at all, and now I'm like back on my game, posting every single week. Turn on those post notification, guys. Come on, you're not gonna want to miss out on our talks, are you? Also, super exciting news, I have a podcast on YouTube. Basically, if you want to listen to this video in podcast form, if you're like, you know what, I got things to do, I got chores, then feel free to put me on audio. So before we get into the deep stuff, I just want to give a shout out to, because I told you guys, I'll be giving you guys shout outs. As long as you're active and you are commenting literally anywhere, I will give you a little shout out. So I don't actually know this person's name, but their username on YouTube is in all caps, just for fun. You commented something about the Aphex Twin song in my background, and I was like, yo, someone commented on that, woo! Yeah, that's cool. Something I've been thinking about. I think it's something that I will be questioning my whole entire life, and it's probably the base of like all philosophical queries, and it is happiness. And where does it come from? And these certain things in life that we think will give us happiness or we expect, in reality, it doesn't. I am running out of breath already. The first thing I want to talk about is probably the most obvious one that everyone seems to harp about, is how money doesn't give you happiness. It can sound naive for some people who are very blessed and who have all of the opportunities in the world set out for them to say this, like, oh, money doesn't equal happiness. I know there's an exact statistic about this, but I don't remember. It's basically saying that once you meet a level where you're comfortable, or a level of income where you're comfortable to, you know, live, you have all of your basic needs met, then the money that you get afterwards doesn't really add anything to your contentment. It's just kind of quick thrills, or cheap thrills. Yeah, that's the word. I think where money can turn into happiness is when it equates to experiences, or it goes into like trips or just different experiences like concerts, or spending time with your friends, like eating out with your friends. You can't do that if you're broke. So it's all about the experiences that money gives you. After a concert, that feeling of unity with everyone and you're in the same place, everyone's connecting to this music, that is the true happiness. The happiness didn't necessarily come from the money, but the money did help you get there. So in a way, money can result in happiness, but I don't think it's necessarily the money itself, because you can still find moments of connection and connecting with others without necessarily going to a concert. So yeah, I feel like if you are from America, and you have a dream and you're chasing it, as I mean, I definitely am. I'm someone who has always had pretty lofty, is that the word? I don't know, but pretty big dreams and goals, and I think that's what keeps me going. I think if I weren't to have those things to look forward to, then, or to work towards, then I think I might just be like, well, what is my purpose here on Earth? It all really ties down to purpose, and literally we're all just trying to figure out why we're on Earth. I like to think we're all placed on Earth knowing like that we want to be here, like we all, our souls want to be here, but the contract that we have to accept is that we're going to forget why we came here. And so kind of like the whole game and the whole quest is to figure out why our soul is here and what we have to add to Earth for the time that we're here. So I really don't think people are just put on Earth by mistake. I think it's very purposeful, and every person has a reason to be here. And you don't know what that reason is. And there can be a lot of like, you know, depression in that. Like, you know, what do I do with this whole life? My whole entire life. I mean, we could die at any time, but most of us assume that we're going to live on. Another thing that's also crazy to think that we can just die at any point, but that's another tangent. Okay, you guys know I travel. It's one of my joys in life. I think that's because it enables you to see how other people live life and the cultures that are carried all over the world, and it really opens up your mind, which is why I think everyone should travel. It doesn't really matter where, but just experiencing something other than your own culture and your own way of living can open your mind and give you so much inspiration. It's literally like you're living your life in a bubble where you have certain ideals, certain expectations, and the way people act and all of that. And then when you go abroad, all of those are just broken down and you get to see how other people live. A big difference that I see is between, because I mostly go to Europe, their work-life relationship, I wouldn't even say balance. I would say work is like a thing they do and then life is like what takes up the rest. In Italy, people live to spend time with their families and to travel and to just simply enjoy life, and then work is something that kind of inhibit or allows them to do this. We kind of are the opposite. Work is our whole entire life, and then living is just like on the side. Living is just on the weekends when we have some spare time, and then we're on this constant grind to fill a void, basically, because work can be distraction. It can also be a elusive form of happiness that once you'll reach this point, then you'll be happy, but it's never like that. And this can go for any sort of achievement, and I'm not trying to say like achievement isn't something that you should not strive for, because I think it can be very fulfilling, but it just depends the way that you carry yourself on the path to achievement. Because if you're miserable and sad and working yourself till you're burnt out, then when you achieve the thing, guess what? You have taught yourself how to be miserable and sad and burnt out. So what are you gonna feel? Miserable, sad, and burnt out. It's so crazy. People think that just because they receive this tangible or intangible title or sum of money that this will change something in their life, and mostly they're just looking for that validation that it gives them, that external validation that like, oh, you're worth something. Oh, because you can do this, that means you're worth something. And really, what is that saying? That someone who can achieve that isn't as valuable as you? It's such like a nasty way of thinking about human beings, and we do that to ourselves all the time. We value ourselves based off of how much we can do, how much we can accomplish. And I know not everyone sees themselves that way, but I think especially type A people like me do. And maybe your problem is you don't have enough motivation to become something bigger. Because I've seen two different types of people. People who are just pretty nonchalant, and people who are seemingly constantly on the go, constantly working and creating new things. And again, there's positives and negatives to both mindsets. You just have to not let them get to extremes, because at the end of the day, nothing is going this sounds so nihilistic. Nothing is going to fill the void. Like an external achievement or whatever, anything on the outside most likely isn't going to fill the void. So what does fill the void? The f*** I know. It's all, like, I don't want to say it's all about, like, finding happiness in the present moment. I'm going to say that again. Finding happiness in the present moment. I know I just answered all the questions to the universe. You're welcome, guys. Live in the present. I bet you haven't heard that before. Life coaches, when they don't know, like, what else to say, they're just like, yo, dude, live in the present. So if we're not finding happiness in the moment, that leads to escapism. The most obvious one I can think of is substance abuse. Literally all the time, I'm just thinking how easy it is for humans to abuse substance. Yo, it's so easy to abuse those substances, am I right? But like, life can be so hard and confusing, and to just kind of like switch it off for a second or like numb it, and there's a price that you have to pay to all of this, and that's why sometimes it's best to just go to sleep. Sleep is like the most natural healer. So if you're thinking about doing drugs, just go to sleep. The whole like the grass is always greener, especially in my day-to-day life, I'm thinking when I'm at home just chilling by myself, I'll be like, oh, I wish I was out right now with friends or on someone's yacht. But when this happens so frequently to me, not really frequently, but like enough. A lot of times when I'm out and I'm like surrounded by people and I'm in these super like charged environments, all I want to do is be alone and read or write, especially write. Something about being in overstimulating environments or even magical moments, I wish I could just pause life and start writing about it or start capturing life in this moment. So it can be a really positive thing, but it's also kind of goes along with the grass is always greener on the other side. Greener. The grass is always greener. You always want what you can't have. I'm literally drinking this kombucha, hoping that it will help me like ascend to a higher level. I'm like writing this script right now. It's my first kind of like psychological mind bender. Not really mind bending, but it's more like psychological and trippy. And I need to write it at night for some reason, just because I need the vibe to be right. I like putting on a synth wave, like 80s music. And I just, anything to get my mind working in a different way. And a lot of times I think like, man, I could just take acid. No, but I'm not. I swear to God, guys. So I drink kombucha and I don't do acid. That's a very positive message to spread. Okay, oh my gosh. Next topic. People. People are one thing I think many of us cling to for happiness. And it's wild because we're all infallible and we're all looking to each other to make us happy, but we're all so flawed. The most common example are romantic relationships. Even like just having crushes and stuff can be so painful, is because you have an expectation of someone to give you something that they are incapable of giving you. And I'm not saying that there's not someone out there who can't give you happiness. They can only give you it in certain moments. I really think that your core level of happiness can't be fulfilled by another human being. I think they can definitely add to it, but at the end of the day, it's you that's gonna have to be filling your cup, because most likely if you're not like married to the person or just spend a lot of time with them, you're gonna spend time alone. You're gonna come home and you have to have a sense of self. If you're just finding all of that sense of self in another person, it just becomes a very fragile situation that if anything were to happen with the relationship, then you're pretty much screwed. And I don't think anyone wants to be in that situation. No matter how in love you are, don't lose yourself in someone else, because it can be very easy to. I think that all just comes from self-control. You have to be emotionally intelligent enough to stop yourself from experiencing these feelings of overwhelming.
Okay, I found this on the web for experience. Check it out.
That just ruined my vibe. Siri, go home. Don't ever come back. Yeah, no, I'm basically saying that be very careful about where you're pulling your self-worth and your happiness from, because if it's in another person that is not a reliable source, as soon as that person can't be there, you, Siri, she just came up again. Girl wants to be in this conversation so bad. No robots here. This is why I like having celebrity crushes, because they can never do me harm. It's an idea of someone that I know is absolutely false. I know that they're probably nothing like the version of them in my head, but that's perfectly fine with me, because it's just a celebrity crush. It never has to go forward. I never have to know them, even though I'm convinced I'm gonna marry Timothée Chalamet, but that's the thing. Don't date people, just get a fucking robot. I think I'm gonna make a movie about that and call it She. Oh my god. Who am I? Making film bro jokes? Oh boy, this topic is a mind bender, just self-identity in general. There's this meditation practice where you close your eyes and you just ask yourself, who am I? 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 And it will feel extremely unnatural and you're like, why the f am I doing this? But eventually you'll get tripped up and you'll just be like, wait, who am I? Because I am not the voice who's saying who am I, because I can hear that. So actually, who am I? The fact of the matter is, all of these identities that we have constructed for ourselves over this time that we've been on Earth, whether it's the type of music you like, you think, oh, I'm cool because I listen to electronic dance music, or I'm cool, whatever, you guys get it. But you know, we as humans, we naturally like to associate ourselves with certain things, and that can almost take over, and that's what forms like a personality, really. But this can become a toxic thing because when we start associating ourselves to be only a certain thing, or box ourselves in this way. I'm just gonna give you guys an example because it's not making sense. I was a gymnast for 13 years, and 13? Maybe more. I quit when I was in high school. I made tons of gymnastics vlogs, so if you guys want to watch those, they're still on the internet. You can see how amazing I was. When I quit, it was one of the hardest things that I've experienced in life because up to that point, I saw myself as a gymnast. I saw all of my worth and my value as being talented, being good at, being disciplined at gymnastics. I was there for literally 16 hours a week practicing, so it became such a strong form of my identity, my friendship group, and just my life was pretty much consumed by this. When I decided that I wanted to quit, I was going down a spiral because I didn't know who I was. And I didn't know what my life meant really without it. The spiral, I think, can happen a lot with athletes. It can happen a lot with people after like they end college or their high school careers, or they get fired from their job and have to go on a different life path. It's because we've given so much importance to this thing that we do and think that's who we are. We get confused with what we do being who we are. Because I have skin, I'm not my skin. Does that make sense? I can do gymnastics, but I am not gymnastics. So when I quit it, that doesn't mean that, you know, I am worthless because I never was gymnastics. I'm me. I'm just a soul and a body with some blonde artificial hair. Not my hair's not artificial, but the blonde is. Looks can be a huge part of identity, probably one of the most concentrated because it's what we see and we identify ourselves with the person we see in the mirror. A lot of self-confidence advice can really be worthless because it's focusing all of this attention on what we look like. It's like, oh, you have to just take a self-care bath and put on face masks and like self-love, blah, blah, blah. But self-love is being okay with what you look like, but knowing in a deeper matter that that is the least interesting thing about you, and you are going to die and leave your body with absolutely nothing. We're really just like souls in these little human suits. This next section is called Craving Darkness. This came to me whilst I was bathing. I was doing my self-care routine with my mask on and I was exfoliating. And I was like, I think to a certain level, happiness is yeah, it's great, but we crave darkness. We crave sadness. And a lot of times we relish in it, or at least I do, because our soul wants to experience not just a constant state of contentment. That's almost boring. Imagine a life where you're just like ecstatic all the time. I would be really tired, first of all. You need contrast, you need ups and downs. And a lot of times we hate when the shitty stuff are happening to us, but if it wasn't happening to us, we would be such boring people. And I think there's nothing more boring than a person who hasn't been through anything, who hasn't experienced hardship in their life, because you can just tell when someone doesn't have depth. It's honestly so unattractive. People who have it easy and seemingly just kind of been gliding through life pretty easily, it's harder to have respect for them. I mean, I still respect them, but it's harder for people who have been through challenges to relate to that. Darkness and challenges aren't always terrible. They're probably better for you than the good times in life because you will learn more about yourself, and who wants an easy life? It's boring. Has anyone gone through a Tumblr goth phase where they're just like black everything, don't talk to me. I definitely like went through that, but it was just me kind of wanting to be darker and less like, oh, sunshine and rainbows. And yeah, so I started watching, you know, darker movies and, you know, getting into sadder, different songs, like, you know, getting into all sorts of rock music. And honestly, it opened a gateway to all of this beauty and art. And I'm sounding so, oh, what's the word? Darkness is beauty, but look at me. What do you expect? My favorite artist is Lana Del Rey, so I love being sad. I will cry every day without really questioning it. For me, it's just like normal, and it's not even when I'm sad. It's just like I can be moved, I can be just listening to a song and I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. I think crying is great. I love crying. I feel like it shows that we're alive and we're human. When it's not beautiful is when you're like wailing. I'm talking about like the cute little droplets of tears that are like, oh, I'm so moved. But when you're like actually physically broken inside, then that's actually not cute. So I digress. Anyway, that is all that I have for Illusions and Happiness. What a beautiful title to my next book that I will be launching. I'm kidding. Leave me a comment, say hi. I really love it when you guys give your own thoughts about these videos. It's more of a discussion than me just blabbing at people that I can't even see. So yeah, I enjoy it. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, well, I'll see you guys later. Bye.